The crystal chandeliers sparkled like fallen stars above the grand ballroom of the Eco Hotel in Lagos, Nigeria. 200 guests dressed in their finest asoebi filled the reception hall, their laughter mixing with a live band's rendition of Sweet Mother. But all that joy shattered the moment Chijioke Okonkwo's champagne glass slipped from his hand and exploded against the marble floor. He stood frozen, his burgundy agbada suddenly feeling like chains around his chest. Because there, carrying a tray of small chops through the glittering crowd, wearing a simple black and white server's uniform, was Adaeze, his ex-wife. The woman he divorced 5 years ago for bringing shame to his family name. Kai, what's wrong? His new bride, Ngozi, touched his arm, her white wedding gown shimmering under the lights. Her smile faded as she followed his gaze. Adaeze hadn't seen him yet. She moved gracefully between tables, her head slightly bowed, offering fried plantains and puff-puff to guests who barely glanced at her. Her once vibrant face looked weathered now, tired. But even in that uniform, even with exhaustion written across her features, she carried herself with a quiet dignity that made Chijioke's stomach twist with something he couldn't name. Chijioke. His mother, Mama Nkechi, materialized beside him, her jewel towering above her head like a monument to family pride. Why are you standing there like a statue? Go and greet Chief Okoli before he thinks we don't appreciate his presence. But Chijioke couldn't move. Memories flooded back, Adaeze in their small flat in Surulere, singing as she cooked egusi soup. Adaeze crying when the doctors said she might never have children. Adaeze's face when he told her his mother had found him a more suitable wife. Is that? Ngozi's voice dropped to a horrified whisper. Is that Adaeze Nnamdi? Your ex-wife. The name carried across the nearby tables. Heads turned. Whispers rippled through the crowd like a stone thrown into still water. Adaeze Nnamdi? The one who was married to Chijioke. I heard she became a prostitute after the divorce. No, my sister told me she went mad and was living under Eco Bridge. What is she doing here? Adaeze finally looked up. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and Chijioke watched something flicker in her expression. Recognition, then pain, then something else. Something that looked almost like pity. She didn't cry. She didn't run. She simply straightened her shoulders, placed the tray on a nearby table, and walked toward the exit with measured steps. Stop her! Mama Nkechi's voice rang out like a gong. Security! That woman is not supposed to be here. But it was too late. The damage was done. Every phone in the room had come out. Cameras flashed. Videos recorded. By tomorrow morning, the entire Lagos social circuit would know that Chijioke Okonkwo had unknowingly hired his disgraced ex-wife to serve at his wedding. Ngozi's father, Chief Obi, rose from the high table, his face dark with fury. What kind of disrespect is this? Is this how you manage your past, young man? Chief, please, I had no idea, Chijioke stammered. Your family assured us that all loose ends were tied. Chief Obi's voice boomed across the suddenly silent hall. That there would be no embarrassments. And now this. My daughter married to a man who cannot even control his own history. Chijioke's business partners exchanged glances. His friends looked away. His younger sister, Chiamaka, hid her face in her hands. And through it all, one thought hammered in Chijioke's mind. How did Adaeze end up here? What happened to her? The catering company had been recommended by his cousin. He'd never bothered to ask about the staff. Excuse me. A deep voice cut through the chaos. A tall man in an expensive navy suit stood at the entrance, his presence commanding immediate attention. He had the bearing of someone accustomed to power, his gray-streaked hair and confident posture speaking of wealth and influence. I believe there's been a misunderstanding, the man said, his Yoruba accent refined and educated. The woman you just humiliated is not a server. She's the owner of Graceful Events, one of the most exclusive catering companies in West Africa. She was here personally overseeing the service as a favor to a mutual contact. The room fell into stunned silence. I'm sorry, Mama Nkechi said, her voice dripping with skepticism. Who are you? The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. My name is Adaeze, and I'm Adaeze's fiancé. Chijioke felt the floor tilt beneath his feet. That's impossible, he heard himself say. Adaeze has nothing. She's nothing. I left her with nothing. Is that what you tell yourself to sleep at night? Adaeze's voice was soft, dangerous. Let me tell you what Adaeze actually is. She's the woman who built a business empire from nothing. She's the woman who just secured a contract to cater the president's daughter's wedding. And she's the woman I'm going to marry next month at the Transcorp Hilton in Abuja. He paused, letting the words sink in. Oh, and one more thing, Adebayo continued, pulling out his phone. Your company, Okonkwo Holdings? You've been trying to secure that loan from Diamond Bank for your new development project, correct? The one worth 500 million naira.
Chijioke's blood ran cold. How did this man know about that?
I'm on the board, Adebayo said simply. And as of this moment, your application is under review for character concerns. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Ngozi's hand slipped from Chijioke's arm. Chief Obi stood up, his face purple with rage. And Mama Nkechi, for perhaps the first time in her life, had nothing to say. In the doorway, Adaeze reappeared, but she was no longer wearing the server's uniform. She stood in a stunning emerald green dress, diamonds glittering at her throat and wrists, her hair styled perfectly, looking every inch the successful businesswoman Adebayo had described. She met Chijioke's eyes one last time, and this time there was no pain. Only cold, hard triumph. Thank you for the opportunity to serve at your wedding, Chijioke, she said, her voice carrying clearly across the silent room.
It was enlightening.
I hope you and Ngozi have the marriage you both deserve. Then she turned and walked out, Adebayo's hand on the small of her back, leaving behind a wedding reception in ruins and a groom whose world had just shattered into 1,000 irreparable pieces.
What would you do if your past was exposed in front of everyone?
Hit like if you've ever been judged unfairly, and comment where you're watching from.
What do you think happens next? Comment below.
The rain hammered against the windows of the small flat in Surulere as Adaeze stirred a pot of jollof rice on the stove. She hummed along to the gospel music playing on the radio, her heart full despite the cramped kitchen and the leak in the ceiling that dripped into a bucket in the corner.
Ada. Chijioke's voice called from the bedroom. Where's my blue shirt? The one I wore to church last Sunday.
In the wardrobe, second shelf, she called back, smiling. Did you look properly, or did you just open it and expect the shirt to jump into your hands?
He appeared in the doorway, grinning sheepishly.
At 28, Chijioke was handsome in an ordinary way, average height, kind eyes, a smile that had made her fall in love with him at the University of Lagos 5 years ago.
Back then, they'd had nothing but dreams and each other.
You know me too well, he admitted, wrapping his arms around her from behind. What are you cooking?
Your favorite.
Jollof rice with fried chicken. We're celebrating, remember? How could I forget?
He kissed her cheek. My wife, the new assistant manager at First Bank.
I'm so proud of you, Ada. She turned in his arms, her smile fading slightly. Kai, when are we going to tell your mother about my promotion? She still thinks I'm just a regular teller.
His expression clouded. Soon, my love. You know how Mama is.
She has traditional views about women and work. Traditional views. Adaeze pulled away, stirring the rice more vigorously than necessary.
Kai, we've been married for 3 years. Your mother still calls me that Igbo girl, even though you're Igbo too.
When will I stop being an outsider? Ada, please. And the baby thing.
Her voice cracked. Every time we visit, she asks when I'll give her grandchildren. As if I'm not trying.
As if it doesn't break my heart every month when. Hey. Chijioke pulled her close again, and she felt tears hot against her cheeks.
The doctors said there's still hope. We just need to keep trying.
And maybe we need to pray more. She nodded against his chest, but something cold had settled in her stomach. In the 3 years of their marriage, she'd learned that pray more was often Chijioke's way of avoiding difficult conversations.
The phone rang, shattering the moment.
Chijioke answered it, his expression shifting from confusion to concern.
Mama? Slow down, I can't understand. What? Now? But it's past 8.
Yes, Mama. We'll come.
He hung up, already moving toward the bedroom. We need to go to my mother's house. It's urgent.
What happened?
She wouldn't say, but she sounded upset.
The drive to Mama Nkechi's house in Ikeja took 40 minutes through Lagos traffic, rain pounding the windshield the entire way.
Adaeze's stomach churned with anxiety. In 3 years, she'd never seen Chijioke's mother upset.
Angry, yes.
Disapproving, constantly. But upset? Never.
The house was a modest bungalow in a compound shared with Chijioke's 2 sisters. When they arrived, the entire family was gathered in the living room. Maman Kechi on her throne-like armchair, Chijioke's sisters Chiamaka and Kechi Jr. on the sofa, and his uncle, Chief Okafor, standing by the window.
No one smiled when they entered.
"Sit down, Chijioke," Maman Kechi said, her voice tight. Adaeze moved to follow him, but Maman Kechi held up a hand.
"Not you. Stand there."
The humiliation burned, but Adaeze obeyed, standing near the doorway like a servant awaiting instructions. "Mama, what's going on?"
Chijioke asked.
Chief Okafor turned from the window, his face grave. "Your wife has brought shame to this family."
"What?" Chijioke stood up.
"Uncle, what are you talking about?" "Sit down." Maman Kechi's voice cracked like a whip. "And let me tell you what your precious Adaeze has been hiding."
She pulled out a folder from beside her chair and threw it onto the coffee table. Photographs spilled out. Adaeze's heart stopped. They were old photos. Very old. From before she'd met Chijioke.
Photos of her at university parties, drinking, laughing, sitting on boys' laps. Innocent photos, really, the kind any young person might have. But in this room, with these people, they looked damning. "Where did you get those?"
Adaeze whispered.
"Does it matter?"
Maman Kechi's eyes were cold. "What matters is what they show. A loose woman. A party girl.
Not the innocent, God-fearing wife you pretended to be. Those are from university."
Adaeze protested. "I was 19.
Everyone goes to parties at university."
"Not in this family," Chief Okafor said. "We have standards.
Reputation. Your behavior reflects on us all." Chijioke picked up the photos, his hands shaking. "These are nothing, Mama."
"University parties. So what?"
"So what?"
Maman Kechi stood up, her voice rising.
"Your wife has been lying to us. Pretending to be something she's not. And now I find out she's been promoted at the bank without even informing this family?
Making more money than you?
What kind of wife makes her husband look small? I earned that promotion."
Adaeze's voice shook with anger and hurt.
"I worked hard for it." "Hard work." Chiamaka spoke for the first time, her voice dripping with venom. "Sister, we know how women like you get promoted in Lagos. Especially women with your history." The implication hung in the air like poison.
"How dare you?" Adaeze breathed.
"Kai." Maman Kechi turned to her son, her voice suddenly soft, manipulative.
"My son. You're 28 years old. You need sons to carry on your father's name.
This woman has been married to you for 3 years and her womb is empty."
"Empty."
"And now we find out she was a party girl, probably sleeping around in university, probably damaged herself with abortions." "Mama, that's enough."
Chijioke shouted. But the seed was planted.
Adaeze could see it in his eyes. The doubt, the shame, the fear that his mother might be right. "Is it true?" he asked quietly, not looking at her. "Did you, in university, did you?"
"Did I what, Kai? Have sex before marriage?" "Yes. With 2 boyfriends in 4 years.
Both relationships I thought were serious. Does that make me a prostitute?"
The silence was deafening. "You lied to me," Chijioke said finally. "I didn't lie. You never asked."
"You never asked about my past because you didn't care. Or I thought you didn't care." "I have found a solution," Maman Kechi announced, as if Adaeze hadn't spoken. "Chief Obi's daughter, Ngozi. She's 23, a virgin, from a good family.
I've spoken to her father.
He's willing to discuss a union."
Adaeze felt the world tilt. "You're talking about another woman?"
"Right in front of me." "You'll do the right thing," Maman Kechi said, looking directly at her. "You'll divorce my son quietly. No drama. No demands. You'll disappear from our lives and let him marry a proper woman."
"Kai."
Adaeze turned to her husband, desperate. "Tell them no. Tell them we're staying together." Chijioke stood there, torn, his mother's hand on his shoulder, her voice in his ear, 3 years of conditioning and family pressure weighing against 3 years of marriage. "I need time to think," he finally said. And in that moment, Adaeze knew she'd already lost him. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
What do you think Adaeze should do? Comment below.
3 months later, Adaeze sat in a lawyer's office in Victoria Island, signing divorce papers with hands that no longer shook. She cried all her tears.
Now there was only numbness.
"Are you sure about this?" The lawyer, Mrs. Okonkwo, no relation to Chijioke's family, asked gently. You're entitled to alimony. To half of everything you both built together. I just want it to be over. Mrs. Okonkwo. Sorry, Ms. Nemdi, you came into this marriage with savings. You contributed to the rent, the furniture, everything.
By law.
I don't want his money.
Adeeze's voice was hollow.
I don't want anything that ties me to him ever again. It was pride speaking, stupid pride, but it was all she had left. The divorce was finalized on a Wednesday. By Thursday, Adaeze had lost her job at First Bank. Budget cuts, her manager said, not meeting her eyes. But Adaeze knew the truth. Mama Nkechi had connections. The Okonkwo family had influence. And a divorced woman with a history was easy to push out. By Friday, she'd been evicted from the flat in Surulere. Chijioke had called, his voice stiff with discomfort, to inform her that he needed the apartment for the transition.
His new wife would need somewhere to live.
Adaeze moved into a single room in Ajagunle, the kind of neighborhood she'd worked her entire life to escape. The room was tiny, the toilet was shared with 5 other tenants, and at night she could hear rats scratching in the walls. She had 47,000 naira left in her savings account.
For 2 weeks, she applied for jobs. Banks.
Corporations. Retail stores.
No one would hire her.
Word had spread somehow. Whispers about why she'd really left First Bank, insinuations about her character, her morals, her past. Lagos was a small town when it came to gossip. On a Monday morning, 3 weeks after the divorce, Adaeze stood at the edge of the third mainland bridge, staring down at the water below.
She wasn't suicidal, not exactly. But she was tired. So impossibly tired.
Don't even think about it.
She turned.
A woman stood behind her, maybe 50 years old, dressed in a simple Ankara wrapper and blouse, carrying a basket of oranges on her head.
I'm not, Adaeze started.
Yes, you were. The woman set down her basket and joined Adaeze at the railing.
I've seen that look before. I've worn it myself.
What's his name? Excuse me. The man who put that look in your eyes. What's his name? Adaeze found herself laughing, a bitter sound. It doesn't matter. It always matters. The woman, her name was Mama Segun, she said, studied Adaeze with knowing eyes.
You're educated. I can tell by how you carry yourself. Good family, probably. So what happened? Husband left you?
Or you left him?
Both. Neither.
I don't know anymore. And now you think you have nothing.
I don't have nothing.
I have 47,000 naira, a room in Ajagunle that smells like mold, and a degree that's apparently worthless because no one will hire a divorced woman with a reputation.
Mama Segun was quiet for a long moment.
Then she said, what if I told you that 47,000 naira is not nothing? What if I told you it's a beginning? A beginning of what? Anything you want.
Mama Segun picked up her basket. I started selling oranges at this bridge 20 years ago with 5,000 naira.
Now I own 3 market stalls and I've put all 4 of my children through university.
Money is just money.
It's what you do with it that matters.
I can't sell oranges.
I don't know how.
Then don't sell oranges.
Sell what you do know. Mama Segun started walking away, then paused. You know what your real problem is? You're still trying to be the woman they wanted you to be.
The good girl. The proper wife.
The one who doesn't make trouble.
That woman is dead.
Let her rest.
And figure out who you really are.
Adaeze watched her disappear into the morning traffic, and for the first time in 3 months, she felt something other than despair.
Anger.
Pure, white-hot, clarifying anger. She pulled out her phone and called her best friend from university, Chidinma, who now lived in Abuja. Ada.
Chidinma's voice was warm with concern.
I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Are you okay?
No. But I will be.
Kai. Do you remember when we catered your sister's wedding? How everyone said the food was the best they'd ever had.
Of course. You have magic hands in the kitchen. Why?
Because I'm going to start a catering business.
With what money? Don't you need capital for? I have 47,000 naira.
And I'm going to turn it into an empire.
There was a pause. Then Chidinma laughed, a sound of pure delight. That's my Ada. The one I knew in school. Not the quiet little wife you became. When do we start? Today.
Adaeze hung up and turned away from the bridge, away from the water, away from the woman Chijioke and his family had tried to make her.
She walked back toward Ajagunle, her mind already spinning with plans. She'd make the best chin-chin in Lagos and sell it at markets. She'd save every naira. She'd build something that was hers and hers alone. But first, she'd stop at the small church near her room and light a candle. Not to pray for Chijioke. Not to ask God why this had happened to her.
But to thank him for showing her who people really were before she'd wasted any more of her life. As she walked, her phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. I heard about the divorce. I'm sorry. If you need anything, call me. Adaeze. Adaeze,
Chijioke's former business school classmate.
the one who'd always been kind to her at parties, who defended her once when Maman Kechi made a cutting remark about her village background.
Adaeze saved the number but didn't reply. Not yet. She had work to do first.
2 years had passed, and Adaeze stood in her small office in Yaba, reviewing invoices by candlelight because Nipa had taken the power again. Her business, Graceful Events, operated out of a modest building that was part office, part kitchen, part storage.
It wasn't much, but it was hers. Her phone rang.
Chidima's name flashed on the screen. Ada, are you sitting down? Kai, it's 9 p.m. and I'm still doing accounts. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong.
Everything's right. My cousin works at the presidency.
They are looking for a caterer for the vice president's daughter's birthday party.
I gave them your name. Adaeze's heart stopped.
Kai, I can't. We're not ready for. Yes, you are. They want to meet you tomorrow at 2 p.m.
Aso Rock.
Don't be late.
She hung up before Adaeze could protest. The meeting was terrifying.
Adaeze wore her best dress, a simple navy ankara she'd sewn herself, and carried a folder containing photos of every event she'd catered in the past 2 years.
There weren't many, but each one was perfect.
Mrs. Oladiel, the vice president's wife, was intimidating, tall, elegant, everything Adaeze had once imagined she needed to be. But when Adaeze presented her menu, explaining her philosophy of blending traditional Nigerian flavors with modern presentation, something shifted in Mrs. Oladiel's expression.
You made all of these yourself? She asked, studying the photos. I have a small team now. 3 cooks, 2 servers.
But yes, I oversee everything personally.
Why? The question caught Adaeze off guard.
Because every dish represents my name. My reputation. If something goes wrong, it's not just bad food. It's a reflection of who I am.
Mrs. Oladiel smiled.
You remind me of myself, 20 years ago. Young, hungry, fighting to prove yourself.
You have the contract.
Don't make me regret it. The vice president's daughter's party was a turning point. 200 guests, politicians, and business people from across Nigeria, and every single one of them asked for Adaeze's card. Within 3 months, Graceful Events had catered 12 high-profile events. Within 6 months, Adaeze had moved to a proper facility in Lekki and hired 20 full-time staff. But success brought visibility.
And visibility brought complications.
One evening, as she supervised the setup for a corporate event at the Eco Hotel, a familiar voice called her name. Adaeze.
She turned.
Adaeze stood there, older than she remembered, distinguished in a charcoal suit, but with the same kind eyes that had offered her help 2 years ago. Adaeze. She smiled, genuinely pleased.
It's been a long time. I heard about your business.
About how you're taking Lagos by storm. He gestured around the beautifully decorated ballroom. This is impressive.
Thank you. I work hard.
I know you do. I've been following your success.
He paused.
Adaeze, I'm not good at subtle approaches.
Can we have dinner sometime? No business.
Just 2 old friends catching up.
She studied him carefully.
He'd been married once, she remembered.
Divorced, like her.
He ran a successful consulting firm and sat on several corporate boards.
Why? She asked bluntly.
Because I should have asked you out 5 years ago, before Chijioke did. But I was too shy, and he was too fast. The honesty disarmed her. Adaeze. Just dinner, Ada. If you hate every minute, I promise never to ask again.
She found herself smiling. Okay.
Just dinner.
That dinner led to another. And another.
Slowly, carefully, Adaeze courted her the way no one ever had. With patience, with respect, with genuine interest in who she was, not who he wanted her to be. 6 months later, on a quiet Sunday evening at her apartment in Lekki, she'd moved out of Ajagunle a year ago. Adaeze asked her to marry him. I know you have reasons to say no,
he said, on one knee in her living room. I know what marriage did to you before.
But Ada, I've watched you build an empire from nothing. I've seen your strength, your vision, your heart.
I don't want to change any of that. I want to stand beside it.
Beside you. Adaeze looked at the man before her, successful, kind, patient. A man who'd never once asked her to be smaller, quieter, less ambitious.
Yes, she whispered.
Yes, I'll marry you. The engagement was announced in this day newspaper. Within hours, her phone exploded with messages. Clients congratulating her. Friends expressing joy.
And one message that made her stomach turn.
Ada, it's Chijioke, Chijioke's sister. We need to talk.
They met at a cafe in Victoria Island.
Chijioke looked older, tired, her designer bag and jewelry unable to hide the stress in her eyes. Congratulations on your engagement, Chijioke said, stirring her coffee nervously.
Thank you.
Is there something you wanted to say? I wanted to apologize. The words came out in a rush.
For what we did to you. For what Mama did. For what I said. It was wrong.
All of it. Adaeze sat back, stunned.
What brought this on?
Karma. Chijioke's laugh was bitter. Kai's marriage to Ngozi is a disaster. She's spoiled, entitled, useless around the house. She can't cook, doesn't clean, and spends all his money on designer clothes.
Mama regrets everything now, but she'll never admit it. And Kai asks about you sometimes.
Wonders how you're doing. I don't care how he's doing.
I know. I don't blame you. Chijioke hesitated. There's something else. Kai's company is struggling.
He made bad investments, trusted the wrong people. He needs a loan from Diamond Bank, but they keep stalling. I heard Adaeze sits on their board. The pieces clicked together. Are you asking me to help him?
No. God, no.
You don't owe us anything.
I wanted you to know. In case you heard about it and thought about. I don't know.
Revenge. Adaeze studied the woman who'd once called her a prostitute to her face.
I thought about revenge, she admitted.
4 months after the divorce, I imagined all the ways I could hurt Kai and your family.
But then I realized something.
The best revenge isn't hurting him.
It's succeeding without him. It's being happy without him.
It's building a life so full and rich and beautiful that he becomes nothing but a footnote. Chijioke's eyes filled with tears. You're better than all of us.
No. I'm just tired of anger.
It's exhausting. When Adaeze heard about Chijioke's loan application, he asked Adaeze directly, do you want me to help him?
Or do you want me to make sure it gets denied? Adaeze thought about it for a long time. About Chijioke's betrayal. About Mama Nkechi's cruelty.
About 3 years of marriage thrown away because she wasn't suitable. I want you to do whatever's best for the bank, she said finally. Evaluate his application on its merits. If he qualifies, help him. If he doesn't, deny him.
But don't make it about me.
Adaeze kissed her forehead. This is why I love you. 2 weeks later, Chijioke's loan was approved, but with strict conditions and higher interest rates due to his poor financial management.
It was a lifeline, but barely.
And 1 week after that, Adaze's phone rang with the opportunity of a lifetime. Ms. Namdi, this is the President's Chief of Staff. His daughter is getting married next month, and would like graceful events to handle the catering. The guest list is approximately 500 people. Are you interested?
Adaeze closed her eyes and smiled. Yes.
Very much so. That night, lying in bed, she thought about the woman she'd been 5 years ago, broken, defeated, standing at the edge of a bridge. And she thought about the woman she was now, successful, loved, unbreakable. The doorbell rang, interrupting her thoughts. She opened it to find a delivery man holding an enormous bouquet of roses. The card read, to the future Mrs. Lacacy. I can't wait to spend my life watching you conquer the world. Adaeze. Adaeze laughed, pulling the flowers inside, her heart full. And somewhere across Lagos, in a house in Ikeja, Chijioke sat across from Ngozi at dinner, pushing food around his plate, wondering what his life would have been like if he'd been braver 5 years ago. If he'd chosen love over family approval. If he'd chosen Adaeze.
Comment your thoughts on her redemption below.
What do you think Chijioke is feeling now?
Comment below.
The morning of Chijioke's wedding to Ngozi, the second one, Adaeze reminded herself wryly. She woke to find Adaeze already dressed, looking handsome in his navy suit.
"Why are you up so early?" she mumbled, checking her phone. 5:30 a.m. "I have an early meeting at the bank, but I wanted to say something before I left."
He sat on the edge of the bed, taking her hand.
"You don't have to do this event today.
I can have someone else from your company oversee it."
"Bayo, we've been through this. It's just a job."
"It's your ex-husband's wedding, Ada."
"To the woman he left you for. That's not just a job." She sat up, fully awake now. 5 years ago, it would have destroyed me. But now? I'm curious more than anything. I want to see what he chose over me.
I want to see if it was worth it. And if it hurts.
Then I have you to come home to.
And that makes everything else bearable.
He kissed her gently.
You're the strongest person I know. After he left, Adaeze showered and dressed in the simple black and white uniform her servers wore. It was a private joke with herself, hiding in plain sight at the wedding of the man who'd thrown her away. She'd oversee the setup, ensure everything was perfect, and leave before the reception started.
Professional. Clean. No drama. But she should have known life never went according to plan.
The Eco Hotel ballroom was magnificent. Adaeze and her team had transformed it into an elegant paradise of burgundy and gold, Chijioke school colors, she remembered with a pang.
Everything was perfect. The food was exquisite. The presentation was flawless.
By 3 p.m., guests started arriving. Adaeze moved between the kitchen and the ballroom, checking last-minute details, her head down, invisible in the crowd of servers and coordinators. She was in the ballroom, placing final decorations on the high table, when she heard his voice. Everything looks beautiful. She turned. Chijioke stood 5 feet away, resplendent in his burgundy egbada, frozen mid-step, his face pale. Adaeze, he breathed. Mr. Okonkwo. She kept her voice professional, distant.
Congratulations on your wedding.
Everything is ready for your reception. What are you? Why are you dressed like? He looked around frantically, as if trying to understand what was happening. Are you working here? Graceful Events is catering your wedding. I oversee all our major events personally.
His eyes widened with recognition.
Graceful Events. That's your company. Yes. But I thought, Mama said you were. He stopped, the unspoken words hanging between them.
His mother had told him Adaeze was destitute. Broken. Probably dead in a gutter somewhere.
Your mother was misinformed about many things, Adaeze said quietly. Now if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. She started to walk away, but he grabbed her arm. Ada, wait.
Please.
I need to. You need to what, Chijioke?
She pulled her arm free, her voice sharp now.
Apologize?
Explain? Tell me it was all a mistake.
It's 5 years too late for any of that. I made a mistake.
The words tumbled out desperately.
The biggest mistake of my life. Ngozi isn't, she's not you.
She'll never be you.
Every day I wake up and I wonder what my life would have been like if I'd been stronger.
If I'd stood up to Mama.
If I'd chosen you. But you didn't. Adaeze's voice was steady, cold. You chose your mother's approval. You chose a suitable wife from a good family. You chose to believe I was damaged goods because I'd lived a normal life before you. So live with those choices, Chijioke.
I have.
Are you happy? The question came out strangled. Tell me you're happy, at least.
She smiled then, and it was genuine.
I'm getting married next month to a man who thinks I hung the moon. My company is one of the most successful in West Africa. I sleep peacefully every night knowing I built everything myself, without compromising who I am. So yes, Chijioke. I'm very happy.
His face crumpled. I'm not.
That's not my problem anymore.
Chijioke. Maman Ketch's voice rang across the ballroom. What are you doing?
Guests are arriving. And who is that servant you're talking to?
Everything happened very fast after that.
Maman Ketchi stormed over, her jewel towering, her face already twisted with disapproval. She grabbed Chijioke's arm, pulling him away from Adaeze. The wedding starts in 30 minutes. You can flirt with the help later. She stopped mid-sentence, her eyes finally focusing on Adaeze's face. You, she hissed. What are you doing here? Working, Maman Ketchi. Something I've always been good at. Security.
Maman Ketch's voice rose to a screech. Security. Remove this woman immediately.
She's not supposed to be here.
And that's when the guests started noticing. Phones came out. Whispers spread.
The story was too delicious, the disgraced ex-wife serving at her replacement's wedding. Adaeze felt her carefully constructed composure beginning to crack.
This wasn't how it was supposed to go.
She was supposed to slip away unnoticed, pride intact, dignity preserved. Instead, she was being publicly humiliated all over again, 5 years later, in front of hundreds of Lagos society's elite. Ngozi appeared then, beautiful in her white wedding gown, her face already pinched with suspicion.
Kai, what's going on?
Who is this woman? Nobody, Maman Kechi said quickly. Just a servant who got confused about her place. I'm the owner of the company catering your wedding, Adaeze said clearly, her voice carrying across the ballroom. Graceful Events. Perhaps you've heard of us.
Several guests gasped.
They had heard of Graceful Events. It was the most sought-after catering company in Lagos. You're Adaeze Nnamdi. One of the guests, a woman in an expensive jewel, stepped forward. The Adaeze Nnamdi? Who catered the vice president's daughter's party? Yes. But I thought. The woman looked between Adaeze and Chijioke, understanding dawning.
Oh my God.
You're his ex-wife.
The ballroom erupted in shocked murmurs. Phones everywhere. Videos recording. The scandal of the year unfolding in real time.
Chief Obi, Ngozi's father, rose from his seat, his face purple with rage. What kind of circus is this? Is this how you conduct your affairs, young man? Chief, I didn't know, Chijioke stammered. You didn't know your own catering company was owned by your ex-wife? What kind of man doesn't do basic research? It was recommended by his cousin. Maman Kechi interjected desperately. How are we supposed to know? Because competent people ask questions.
Chief Obi roared.
My daughter is about to marry into a family that can't even manage a simple wedding without stirring up scandal from the past. Ngozi started crying, her makeup running.
Mama, you promised me there wouldn't be any drama.
You promised his past was settled.
It is settled. Maman Kechi shot a venomous look at Adaeze.
This woman means nothing to us anymore. Then why is everyone staring?
Ngozi wailed.
Why is everyone recording? This is supposed to be my perfect day. Adaeze stood in the center of the chaos, feeling strangely detached. She'd imagined confronting Chijioke and his family 1,000 times in those early days after the divorce. She'd imagined shouting, crying, making them hurt the way they'd hurt her. But now, standing here, watching them fall apart, she felt only pity. I'm leaving, she announced calmly. My team will stay and finish the service as contracted. You'll receive excellent service because that's what Graceful Events provides. But I'm done here.
She turned toward the exit.
Wait. The voice was deep, commanding, familiar. Adaeze stood in the doorway, still in his suit from his morning meeting, his presence filling the room with quiet authority.
Bayo.
Adaeze's voice cracked with relief. What are you doing here?
Your assistant called me.
Told me there was a situation. He walked to her, taking her hand, his eyes never leaving hers. Are you all right? I am now. He turned to face the room, and Adaeze watched as recognition rippled through the crowd. Adaeze was famous in Lagos business circles, wealthy, influential, connected to the highest levels of government and finance. I believe there's been a misunderstanding, he said, his voice calm but with an edge of steel. The woman you just humiliated is not a servant. She's the owner of Graceful Events, one of the most exclusive catering companies in West Africa. She was here personally overseeing your service as a favor to a mutual contact. And who are you? Maman Kechi demanded, though her voice had lost some of its fire. My name is Adaeze, and I'm Adaeze's fiancé. The room fell silent. That's impossible, Chijioke said, his voice hollow. Adaeze has nothing.
She is nothing.
I left her with nothing. The words hung in the air, and Adaeze saw several guests wince at the cruelty of them. Is that what you tell yourself to sleep at night? Adaeze's voice was soft, dangerous. Let me tell you what Adaeze actually is. She's the woman who built a business empire from 47,000 naira. She's the woman who just secured the contract to cater the president's daughter's wedding next month. She's the woman who turns down more business than your entire family's combined income in a year. And she's the woman I'm going to marry at the Transcorp Hilton in Abuja in 3 weeks. He paused, letting the words sink in, watching the color drain from Chijioke's face. Oh, and one more thing. Adebayo pulled out his phone, his expression pleasant but his eyes cold. Mr. Okonkwo, your company applied for a loan from Diamond Bank, correct?
For your new development project?
The one worth 500 million naira that could save your failing business.
Chijioke's eyes went wide with panic.
How do you?
I'm on the board.
I abstained from voting on your application because of my relationship with Adaeze.
I thought it was the ethical thing to do. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it.
But after witnessing how you and your family treat people, I'm reconsidering.
Perhaps I should have a conversation with my fellow board members about character concerns.
About a man who speaks about his ex-wife, a woman he threw away and tried to destroy, with such contempt.
You can't do that, Maman Kechi protested. That's blackmail. No, Maman Kechi. That's consequences.
Something your son should have learned a long time ago.
Chief Obi stood up, his face now beyond purple. I've heard enough. Ngozi, get your things.
We're leaving.
Papa, no. Ngozi grabbed her father's arm. We can't cancel the wedding.
Everyone is here. The shame. The shame.
Chief Obi turned to his daughter.
The shame is marrying into a family with no integrity. A family that treats people like garbage and expects no consequences. A family that humiliates a successful businesswoman at their own event because she dared to survive their cruelty.
He looked at Chijioke with disgust.
You're a small man, Chijioke Okonkwo. Ruled by your mother, threatened by successful women, incapable of standing on your own 2 feet.
My daughter deserves better.
Chief, please. Chijioke reached out desperately. Don't touch me. Chief Obi pulled away. Consider our business dealings concluded. And if I hear one single word, of gossip about my family or my daughter from yours, I'll make sure every bank in Nigeria knows about your financial mismanagement and poor character. He strode out, Ngozi stumbling after him in her wedding dress, crying hysterically. Half the guests followed, sensing the party was definitively over. Maman Kechi sank into a chair, her jewel askew, her face aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Chiamaka and Kechi Jr. stood nearby, looking lost. Chijioke just stood there, his burgundy Egbada suddenly looking ridiculous, his wedding in ruins, staring at Adaeze as if seeing her for the first time.
I'm sorry, he whispered.
Ada, I'm so sorry. Adaeze looked at him, really looked at him.
The man she'd loved. The man she'd built dreams with. The man who'd abandoned her when she needed him most. And she felt nothing. No anger. No satisfaction at his downfall. Just a distant sadness for time wasted on someone so weak.
I forgive you, Chijioke, she said quietly.
Not for you. For me.
Because I refuse to carry your mistakes in my heart anymore. She turned to leave, Adebayo's hand firm and steady in hers.
But at the doorway, she paused and looked back one last time.
I hope you find happiness someday, she said. I really do.
But not because I care about you. Because I care about the kind of person I am.
And I'm someone who wishes well even for people who wished me harm. Then she walked out of the Eco Hotel ballroom, out of Chijioke's life, out of the shadow of the past that had haunted her for 5 years. Behind her, she could hear Maman Kechi beginning to wail. Outside, the Lagos sun was bright and warm on her face.
Adebayo wrapped his arm around her shoulders. You're amazing, he said. I'm tired, she admitted.
But I'm free.
Come on.
Let's go home.
Home. She had that now. A real home. With a man who saw her worth.
As they drove away from the hotel, Adeeze's phone buzzed. A message from Mrs. Oladiel, the vice president's wife. I just heard what happened at the Okonkwo wedding. That family should be ashamed. Also, the president's office has approved your contract.
We'll need to meet this week to discuss details.
Congratulations, Adaeze. You've earned this. Adaeze showed Adebayo the message, and they both started laughing. The kind of laughter that comes from relief, from triumph, from surviving something that was supposed to destroy you. The president's wedding, Adebayo said, shaking his head in wonder. Do you remember standing on 3rd Mainland Bridge with 47,000 naira, thinking your life was over?
I remember, Adaeze said softly.
That woman seems like a stranger now.
She's not a stranger. She's the foundation everything else was built on. Without her pain, there's no you, no us. He was right, she realized.
Every heartbreak, every humiliation, Every moment of despair had been necessary. Not because suffering was good, but because it had revealed who she truly was beneath all the expectations and judgments and rules others had tried to impose on her.
"Thank you," she said.
For what?
"For seeing me. Not who you wanted me to be. Not who I could be useful as.
Just me. Always," he promised. And as they drove through Lagos traffic toward their future, toward their wedding in 3 weeks, toward the president's daughter's event, toward a life built on respect and love and partnership, Adaeze felt something she hadn't felt in years.
Peace.
3 weeks later, the Transcorp Hilton in Abuja glittered with lights and flowers, gold and white everywhere, elegant and understated, exactly as Adaeze had dreamed.
But this time, she wasn't the one cooking or coordinating.
She'd hired another catering company and insisted her entire team attend as guests.
Tonight, she was the bride.
In the bridal suite, surrounded by Chidinma and 3 other friends from university, Adaeze looked at herself in the mirror. The wedding dress was ivory silk with gold embroidery, traditional Igbo patterns woven into modern elegance. On her head sat a gold jewel, and her neck and wrist sparkled with the jewelry Adebayo had given her, heirlooms from his grandmother.
"You look like a queen,"
Chidinma whispered, tears in her eyes.
"I feel like one," Adaeze admitted. There was a knock at the door.
One of the attendants poked her head in. "There's someone here who wants to see you. She says her name is Chiamaka Okonkwo."
The room fell silent. Chidinma's face hardened.
"Should I send her away?"
Adaeze thought about it. She could turn Chiamaka away. She'd earned that right. But curiosity won out.
"Give me 5 minutes alone with her." When Chiamaka entered, she looked diminished somehow, thinner, older, wearing a simple dress instead of her usual designer outfits. "I'm not here to cause trouble," she said immediately.
I wanted to see you."
"To apologize again, properly, before you start your new life." "You already apologized." "Not well enough." Chiamaka twisted her hands together. "Adaeze, everything fell apart after the wedding.
Chief Obi spread word about what happened.
Half of Lagos high society cut ties with our family. Mama had a stroke 2 weeks ago, she's recovering, but she's not the same. And Chijioke." She paused, seeming to struggle with the words. "What about Chijioke?" Adaeze asked, though she told herself she didn't care.
"He's lost everything.
The bank denied his loan.
His business partners abandoned him.
Ngozi's family is suing him for breach of contract and emotional distress.
He had to sell the house in Ikeja.
He's living with Mama now, and his broken Ada. Completely broken." Adaeze waited to feel satisfaction. Vindication.
Something. But there was only that same distant sadness. "I'm sorry to hear that," she said, and meant it. "Are you?"
Chiamaka looked at her incredulously.
"After everything he did to you?"
"Everything we all did."
"Yes.
Because holding on to anger would poison my happiness. And I refuse to let any of you have that power over me anymore." Chiamaka's eyes filled with tears. "You're a better person than I'll ever be." "I'm just tired of hate, Chiamaka. It's exhausting." Adaeze moved to the door, opening it gently. "Thank you for coming. I hope your mother recovers. And I hope your family finds peace." "Ada," Chiamaka hesitated at the threshold.
"He asks about you. Every day. Wonders if you're happy. If you ever think about him."
"Tell him I am happy. Happier than I ever imagined possible. And tell him I hope he learns to be happy too, without needing to diminish someone else to feel big." After Chiamaka left, Chidinma came back in, studying Adaeze's face. "Are you okay?"
"I'm perfect." And she was.
The wedding ceremony was beautiful. 400 guests, business partners, clients, friends, even Mrs. Oladil and several government officials. The vice president himself attended, his presence a stamp of approval that would open even more doors for graceful events. But Adaeze barely noticed any of them. Her eyes were on Adebayo, standing at the altar in his traditional Yoruba attire, looking at her like she was the only person in the world. The pastor spoke about love and partnership, about weathering storms together, about building something stronger than either person alone. And when it came time for vows, Adebayo spoke first. "Adaeze, when I met you 5 years ago, you were already remarkable. But I was too afraid to tell you. I watched you marry someone else, and I told myself I'd missed my chance. Then I watched that man break you, and I hated myself for not being braver. But when I saw you rebuild yourself, not just survive, but thrive,
I knew I had to tell you the truth. You don't need me. You don't need anyone. You're complete all by yourself. But I'm hoping you'll want me anyway.
Not to complete you, but to walk beside you. To celebrate your victories and hold your hand through defeats. To be your partner, your friend, your home. I love you, Adaeze Nnamdi. And I promise to spend every day of our marriage making sure you never doubt your worth again. By the time he finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the ballroom. Adaeze took a shaky breath, her own vows prepared but suddenly inadequate.
So she spoke from her heart instead.
Adebayo, 5 years ago, I stood on a bridge and wondered if I had anything left to live for. I was broken, hopeless, convinced that my worth was defined by one man's rejection.
But I was wrong.
My worth was always there, waiting for me to recognize it.
You didn't save me, Bayo. I saved myself.
But you did something just as important. You saw me. Really saw me. Not my past, not my pain, not my potential. Just me, exactly as I am, and you loved me anyway. You taught me that love isn't about changing for someone. It's about being yourself and having someone say, yes, that's what I want. So I promise you this, I will never shrink myself to make you comfortable. I will never apologize for my success. I will never pretend to be less than I am.
But I will stand beside you.
I will build dreams with you. I will love you fiercely and honestly for the rest of our lives. Because you're my partner, Adebayo Lasisi. And together, we're unstoppable.
The applause was thunderous.
When they kissed, sealing their marriage, Adaeze felt something click into place, a sense of rightness, of coming home, of everything finally making sense. At the reception, speeches were made. Chidinma told embarrassing stories from university. Adebayo's brother welcomed Adaeze into their family. Mrs. Oladiale stood up and publicly announced that the president's office was so impressed with graceful events that they'd signed a 5-year contract for all state functions. The room erupted in congratulations.
Business cards appeared from everywhere. Partnerships were proposed.
Adaeze's phone buzzed constantly with messages from potential clients. But the moment Adaeze would remember forever came late in the evening, during a quiet lull in the celebrations. An elderly woman approached her table, someone Adaeze didn't recognize at first. Then she realized, it was Mama Segun, the woman from Third Mainland Bridge, dressed in her finest ankara. You came, Adaeze breathed, standing up to embrace her.
Of course I came.
You invited me, didn't you? Mama Segun smiled, her weathered face creasing with pride. Look at you now.
From 47,000 naira to this. From a single room in Ajagunal to the Transcorp Hilton.
Did I tell you wrong? You told me exactly right. Adaeze's throat tightened with emotion. You saved my life that day.
No, my daughter. I just reminded you of what was already inside you.
You saved yourself.
She patted Adaeze's hand. Now go. Dance with your husband. Enjoy your triumph.
You earned every minute of it. As Mama Segun walked away, Adaeze felt Adebayo's arms wrap around her from behind.
Who was that? He asked.
An angel, Adaeze said simply, disguised as an orange seller. They danced under the chandeliers, surrounded by people who celebrated them, in a ballroom paid for with Adaeze's own money, wearing a dress she'd chosen herself, married to a man who loved her without conditions. And somewhere in Lagos, in a cramped apartment with peeling paint, Chijioke Okonkwo sat alone, scrolling through photos of Adaeze's wedding on Instagram, understanding too late what he'd thrown away.
But Adaeze wasn't thinking about him. She wasn't thinking about Maman Kechi or Chiamaka or anyone from her past.
She was thinking about the future, about the president's daughter's wedding next month, about expanding graceful events into Accra and Nairobi, about the possibility of children with Adebayo, about growing old with a man who saw her as an equal. What are you thinking about? Adebayo murmured against her ear.
Everything, she said, smiling. I'm thinking about everything.
The next morning, lounging in their honeymoon suite, Adaeze's phone rang. It was an unknown number with a Lagos area code. Against her better judgment, she answered. Adaeze.
The voice was broken, raw. Chijioke. Please don't hang up. I just need to say something. She should have ended the call.
But something, not love, not even pity, just curiosity, made her listen.
I saw your wedding photos, he continued. You looked happy. Really, truly happy. The way you never looked with me. And I realized something. I never wanted you to be happy. I wanted you to be perfect. Perfect for my mother. Perfect for my family. Perfect for my image.
But I never wanted you to be yourself.
He took a shaky breath.
You were right to leave. Right to build your own life.
Right to find someone who actually deserves you.
I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too weak to stand up for it.
And now I have to live with that every day.
Chijioke.
I'm not asking for forgiveness. Or for another chance. I just wanted you to know that you won, Ada. You didn't just survive.
You became everything I was too small to imagine.
And I'm proud of you.
Even though I have no right to be.
The line went quiet.
Thank you for saying that, Adaeze said finally. It doesn't change anything. But thank you.
I know.
Goodbye, Adaeze.
Be happy.
I already am. She hung up and turned to Adaeze, who'd been listening quietly.
Closure, he asked. Something like that. She nestled against him.
Bayo, do you think people can really change? I think people can grow, he said thoughtfully. Whether they do or not depends on whether they are willing to face hard truths about themselves.
Some people are. Most aren't.
Will I keep growing? Or will I become comfortable and stop?
He laughed.
You? Stop growing? Ada, you're going to conquer Africa, then the world, then probably Mars. Growth is who you are. She smiled, feeling the truth of it settle into her bones. The woman who'd stood on Third Mainland Bridge with 47,000 naira and a broken heart was gone. In her place was Adaeze Lassisi, businesswoman, entrepreneur, wife, survivor, warrior, queen.
Not because someone had crowned her, but because she'd crowned herself.
Years later, when young women asked her how she'd done it, how she'd rebuilt from nothing, how she'd overcome betrayal and judgment and shame, she always told them the same thing.
You are not what they say you are.
You're not defined by who left you or who rejected you or who tried to break you. You're defined by what you do after they are gone.
By whether you choose to shrink or to grow.
By whether you let their judgment become your prison or your fuel. And then she'd smile and add, also, never underestimate what you can build with 47,000 naira and a whole lot of anger channeled in the right direction. Graceful Events went on to become the premier catering company in West Africa, with branches in 6 countries. Adaeze and Adaeze had 3 children who grew up watching their mother run business meetings and their father cook dinner, learning that partnership meant supporting each other's dreams, not competing with them. Chijioke eventually remarried, a quiet woman who worked as a teacher, someone content with a simple life. He never rebuilt his business empire, but he found a different kind of peace. Sometimes he'd see Adaeze's name in This Day or in business magazines, and he'd feel that familiar pang of regret. But mostly, he tried not to think about the queen he'd thrown away when he was too foolish to recognize her crown. Mema Nkechi recovered from her stroke but never regained her former fire. She spent her remaining years quiet, subdued, sometimes muttering about the one that got away when she thought no one was listening. And Adaeze? She lived. Fully, completely, unapologetically. She built businesses, raised children, loved her husband, helped other women find their strength, and never, ever apologized for taking up space in the world. Because she'd learned the most important lesson of all. You are not who others say you are. You are who you decide to be. And no one, not ex-husbands, not disapproving mothers-in-law, not society's judgment, can take that away from you unless you let them. Adaeze never let them. And in the end, that made all the difference. The end. Thank you for watching this story on K-Smart's Mythic Tales. If this story touched your heart or inspired you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Have you ever overcome betrayal or rebuilt your life from nothing? Share your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss our emotional stories of resilience, redemption, and triumph. Until next time, remember, your past doesn't define you. Your courage does.